reign. When we left Zimbabwe, inflation was at what we thought was a staggering 300% per year. And that, to the rest of the world, seems unimaginable. We would get ticked off in this country if inflation went over 5%. But now I just read this week that inflation is at 14,000% in the country of Zimbabwe. Last week, the exchange rate between the US dollar and the Zimbabwean dollar passed 1 million. And had the government not dropped 3 zeros off the currency last year, it would have been 1 billion to 1. Bus fare is a couple of $1 million. The largest currency note is 200,000. So if you can get one of those bills, you'd need 10 of those to board the bus. But those bills, the $200,000 notes, are in short supply. The only notes readily available are the nearly worthless $500 bills. To take the bus, you need to count out 4,000 of these just to board the bus. The country's collapsing and the people are suffering. A friend of mine just went over there to Zimbabwe, and he saw one of my former students named Fibian. Fibian's a small little man, and we used to call him Zacchaeus. He went through our undergraduate and graduate program. His real name, though, what his people call him in his church, is the Little Elephant. He's a small man, but he's got a great big heart. Fibian's now teaching other pastors in the Free Methodist Church, and my American friend saw Fibian for a couple of hours last month, and he asked Fibian, "Are you having a good day?" And Fibian said, "Yes, I've had a cup of tea today." Now, tea is really important in the Zimbabwean diet, but the point was, and what Ryan finally figured out after talking for a while with Fibian, was that was all he had that day. How tragic, yet how amazing at the same time. This man is literally giving away his life as he serves the Church of Zimbabwe, and he is sure that God is with him. It's sad for us because there's not a whole lot we can do. When we send money, it's appreciated, but there's practically no food on the shelves to buy. You can't send him food because the dictatorship will confiscate it. Fibian and so many others serving God in Zimbabwe are broken down people. They're literally wasting away as they serve God. But they continue to give and serve. They're broken down, yet they're open-hearted. God's servant Paul in today's passage describes the broken down, open-hearted Christian life. Paul himself was living out this life. On the outside, he seemed to be broken down, yet his heart was always big and wide open. Paul's writing these words from chapter 6 to the cranky Corinthians, and as we've looked at 2 Corinthians these past 10 weeks, we've come to know the cranky Corinthians. They were a group of people who seemed to think that Paul's broken downness, that his hardships were a sign that God was not blessing him. They viewed Paul as a failure because of all the bad things that happened to him. Have you ever heard of the naked pastor? Now, that's a scary phrase. Come back. People are running out the door now. No. There's a pastor in Florida who became known as the naked pastor. Now, he didn't take off his clothes, although some Old Testament prophets did. We can study those texts another time. We'll talk about Isaiah and Ezekiel and those guys another time. But this pastor did not literally get naked, but as an exercise of transparency to allow people to see in his life, he installed little cameras in his car, in his home, and in his office as a way of showing his people how he lived. And so there you get the idea of being open, being vulnerable, being naked in a manner of speaking. Paul in verses 4 and 5 switches on his own naked apostle camera. He lists the times in his life when bad things happened to him. Troubles, hardships, distresses, beatings, imprisonments, riots, lots of hard work, lots of sleepless nights. Danger. For Paul, these bad things were signs of brokenness, but they also served as signs of blessing.